Dying Light looks like a game you can survive. That's the trap. Every zombie, every disease, every mutation exists to make survival not just hard, but impossible. Today I'm breaking down the 12 most dangerous threats in the Dying Light universe, starting with the disease that already killed 98% of the human race, the virus. The Heron virus doesn't announce itself. No fever warnings, no government alerts, no time to evacuate. You get scratched by a biter on a Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday, you're one of them. Here's what the game actually tells you. The Heron virus is canonically described as a hypermutagenic variant of rabies. Transmission happens through bites, scratches, and exchange of bodily fluids. The infection timeline isn't consistent, which makes it worse, not better. Patient 0 turned in roughly 30 minutes. A child in the official Dying Light novel lasted 5 days. The game's own GRE poster documents 4 progressive stages: flu-like symptoms, then seizures and hallucinations, then skin lesions and tumor growth, then full genetic mutation. Stage 4 is the point of no return. The official lore describes it as, you are a sick human trapped in a rotten body of a monster, and the only defense is Antizin, which isn't a cure. The GRE's own broadcast says it out loud. Remember, Antizin is a treatment, not a cure. You inject it every few days or the infection resumes immediately. Miss one dose and you're back on the clock. Dr. Zier, the scientist who was actually close to a real cure, was murdered by Race's men before he could finish it. Dr. Camden believed he could complete the work but needed Zier's full data, which was lost forever. There is no cure. There never was one. But here's where it gets worse. In Dying Light 2, the virus mutated into THV, the tachytransmissive Heron virus, which the GRE secretly engineered as a bioweapon. It escaped a level 4 lab in Geneva in October 2021. First cases appeared in Zurich and Paris. Within weeks, over half of humanity was estimated infected. By late 2023, THV had killed 98% of the global human population. Then came Black Monday, January 6, 2025. Chemical bombings using a GRE compound called THV GenMod killed hundreds of thousands more and made the virus airborne. In Dying Light 2's city of Villador, every single resident is already infected. Every single one. And what the virus builds from a freshly infected human still looks almost human. That's exactly the problem. Virals. A freshly infected person still looks human, still has hair, still wears their clothes, still has their face, and they sprint at you full speed. Virals are the recently turned, and the reason they're so dangerous is exactly that. Their bodies are still physically alive. The infection hasn't had time to break them down yet, so what you're dealing with isn't a shambling corpse. It's a human being running at athletic speed who wants you dead. They scream when they charge. They claw and punch. They don't bite, because at this stage the virus is focused on aggression, not feeding. When you hit them hard enough, some of them fall to the ground and plead for mercy, and then they get back up and attack again. That's confirmed in-game behavior. But here's the thing about virals that nobody talks about. They can parkour, fully. Whatever building you just climbed to escape, they're right behind you. Whatever gap you just jumped, they're clearing it. Whatever locked door you just sprinted through, they're coming through the window. There's literally no terrain advantage you have over a viral. The city was built for humans, and they're still human enough to navigate every inch of it. They're also attracted to sound. Every gunshot, every explosion, every metal impact when you're fighting one pulls more of them from surrounding buildings. So fighting a viral is a feedback loop. You make noise fighting one, which attracts 3 more, which forces you to make more noise, which attracts 6 more. Players have documented packs of 15 or 20 virals swarming a location because of a single gunfight that spiraled out of control. And here's where it gets dark. Virals aren't the end state. Virals that get enough UV exposure eventually degrade into biters, the slow shambling ones you stop being scared of. But virals that avoid sunlight long enough follow a different path entirely. They keep mutating. They get faster. They get stronger. And eventually they become something that makes a sprinting, parkour-capable, screaming human being look like the safe option. But if a pack of virals surrounding you sounds like a nightmare, wait until you meet the ones that stopped running altogether and learn to throw things instead. Goons. Most zombies you can outrun. Most zombies you can outsmart. Most zombies, if you get above them, are completely helpless. Goons are none of that. Goons are 8 feet tall, carrying a chunk of metal rebar the size of a small car, and they don't care that you have a plan. The horizontal swing sends a ground shockwave that hits you through a block. The vertical overhead slam sends a ground shockwave that hits you through a block. The 360-degree spin, which they use when you try to circle them, sends a ground shockwave that hits you through a block. Notice a pattern. There is 0 defensive option against a goon except movement, which means every player who learned to block and parry suddenly has to unlearn everything the game taught them the moment one of these things shows up, and the per-hit damage is brutal. A goon can one-shot players who aren't built specifically for survivability. survivability. Each hit you land on them makes them attack faster and more aggressively, so the longer the fight goes, the more dangerous they get. You are literally being punished for doing well. Dying Light 2 made them worse. The goon variants in DL2 come in elemental flavors: fire, toxic, and electric. A fire goon spreads burning damage across the ground on impact. A toxic goon creates poison clouds that drain your health and your immunity at the same time. An electric goon staggers you with every shockwave, leaving you helpless for follow-up attacks from every other infected in the area. And they don't come alone. Goons appear in environments full of biters and virals, meaning while you're trying to dodge an 8-foot rebar swing, you've got 6 other infected clawing at your back. The one actual weakness a goon has is that it cannot climb. Get above one and it can't reach you. Cool, but every building you'd want to climb is full of virals who absolutely can reach you. At least a goon is going to hit you and nothing else. Unlike the next one, which turns itself into a walking explosive and detonates the moment you touch it. Bombers, 20 hit points. That's all a bomber has. 20. By comparison, a standard biter has around 200. A bomber has less health than almost anything in the game, and it will absolutely kill you. Here's the problem. Bombers are infected whose bodies have bloated with pressurized toxic gas to the point where their chest cavity has literally torn open. You can see the organs, they're exposed, pulsating, and leaking. The in-game lore description tells you something genuinely disturbing about them. The bomber doesn't know it will explode. It runs toward people because it wants contact with another living thing. It hopes, on some instinctive level, that a human being will somehow end its suffering. And the moment anything touches it, it detonates. Any weapon, any hit, even shining a flashlight on one causes it to blow. The explosion radius is large enough to kill or critically injure anything nearby, and the noise it makes when it goes off immediately attracts every viral in the surrounding area, so a bomber doesn't just kill you directly, it kills you, fills the street with toxic gas, and then summons a pack of sprinting infected to finish whatever the explosion didn't. A single bomber functionally resets any situation you had under control. But wait, the Suicider variant in DL1 is worse. Where a standard bomber shambles slowly enough that you can identify and avoid it, a Suicider moves at viral sprint speed. It screams a specific warning when it spawns, but the reaction window between hearing that scream and it reaching you is minimal. A sprinting, instantly detonating biological landmine with a hair trigger and the same lethal blast radius. The game introduces Suiciders at night, when you're already dealing with volatiles, and combines them with enclosed urban environments where there's nowhere to create safe distance. The only reliable counter is a ranged headshot before it reaches you, which means you make noise, which brings back the virals, which means you make more noise. Everything in this game is a feedback loop that ends with you dead, and nothing makes that clearer than what happens when you meet an infected that doesn't want to kill you. It just wants to tell everyone else where you are. Howlers. A howler cannot hurt you. 0 claws, 0 attacks, 0 direct threat in a straight fight. On paper, it is one of the least dangerous infected in the entire franchise. In practice, it is the most dangerous thing in the game. Howlers are virals whose mutation into full volatiles was derailed by exposure to the GRE's THV GenMod chemicals during Black Monday. The compounds attacked their larynx and lungs, creating a pulsating yellow growth on their torso filled with volatile toxic chemicals. Their bodies stopped becoming volatiles, but their purpose became something worse. When a howler spots you, that growth starts to boil, and then it screams. That scream doesn't just attract infected, it immediately initiates a chase sequence. Level 1. Just like that, before you've done anything wrong, before you made a sound, before you even had a chance to react. One howler making eye contact with you from across a street is all it takes to put volatiles on your trail, and as that chase level climbs, more infected spawn, faster and deadlier, until by level 4 you have volatiles actively hunting you from both the streets and the rooftops with 0 safe path out. Here's where it gets particularly brutal. After the 1.11 update to Dying Light 2, howlers were added to daytime spawns. They were always a nighttime threat before, which was already devastating. Now they patrol in sunlight. Now the one time a day you were supposed to be safe from volatile level escalation, a single howler spotting you from a rooftop can still trigger the exact same catastrophic chase sequence. The division between safe daytime and deadly nighttime, the core survival promise the game makes you from the beginning, is now functionally gone, and you can't fight your way out of. Killing the howler after it screams doesn't stop the chase. The signal is already sent. The only options are run or hide, and the infected that respond to the scream know the city better than you do. One zombie that can't touch you. An entire city's worth of infected that now know exactly where you are. If you think an alarm system that summons volatiles is bad, wait until you meet the infected that can literally bring them back from the dead. Revenants. Every other infected type on this list wants to kill you. Revenants want to build an army first. Revenants are boss-level infected found exclusively at GRE anomaly sites in Dying Light 2, and they are the only infected in the franchise with a confirmed supernatural power. They can resurrect the dead, not summon living infected from nearby. Resurrect? Corpse piles on the ground around a revenant aren't scenery, they're reserves. Mid-fight, a revenant raises its arms and pulls biters, virals, and occasionally volatiles directly out of the bodies stacked around the arena. You can kill every infected in the area, turn around, and the ones you just killed are getting back up behind you. That alone would be enough. But revenants also generate a toxic mist that does two things simultaneously. It buffs the health of every infected inside it, and it damages you. So you're fighting a wave of resurrected enemies that are harder to kill inside a cloud that is actively draining your health. The longer the fight goes, the more the revenant has summoned, the more of them are buffed, and the worse the situation becomes in every measurable direction. And here's the kicker. Despite their slow, lumbering appearance, revenants have near teleportation mobility. One moment it's across the arena, the next it's in your face. Players documented this repeatedly before understanding it as an intentional design choice rather than a bug. It repositions faster than any infected its size should be capable of, cutting off retreats and eliminating the breathing room you need to deal with the horde it just spawned. They appear only at night, which means the clock is already against you before the fight even starts. Every second you spend in a GRE anomaly after dark is a second your immunity is draining, and revenants are specifically designed to extend fights as long as possible by replacing everything you kill. The GRE built these sites. The GRE's experiments created these things, and the GRE made sure there would always be more of them. But a revenant at least stays in one place. What comes next doesn't stay anywhere. It hunts, it tracks, and it remembers exactly where you are. Demolishers. Most threats in this game can be escaped by being faster, smarter, or more vertical than them. Demolishers eliminate all three options at the same time. A demolisher is what happens when the virus hits a police riot control officer and just keeps going. 8 to 10 feet tall, with the proportional strength to match. Their charge attack breaks through concrete walls, not wooden doors, not thin drywall. Concrete walls, the architecture you've been treating as shelter. The barriers between you and the street, the rooms you barricaded yourself into, all of it is load-bearing fiction against a demolisher. They can tear chunks of road surface out of the ground and throw them at you as projectiles. When you try to put distance between yourself and one, it throws the street at you, and every single one of their attacks is unblockable. Every one. There is zero defensive option in the game that applies to a demolisher. No block, no parry, no shield, no nothing. Dodging is the only answer, which means every second you spend fighting one is a second where mistiming a single dodge results in a hit that can kill you outright. One mistake. That's the entire margin. Here's where it gets worse. In Dying Light 2, THV Gen Mod exposure during Black Monday replaced the riot armor with something the virus grew itself. Organic, rock-like blisters cover the body. Bone spikes protrude outward as natural weapons. The virus looked at a riot-armored human being and decided that wasn't armored enough, so it built its own version. A new shockwave stomp attack creates ranged knockdowns, meaning you can be floored by a demolisher from a distance you thought was safe. The named variant, Sergeant Deathrow, found in Old Town, has 13,708 hit points on Nightmare difficulty. That number is not a typo. They cannot climb. That's the weakness. Get above a demolisher and it can't follow you. But getting above one requires crossing the ground it controls, and the charge radius on a demolisher is wide enough to catch most players mid-jump. Players have documented getting hit by a demolisher charge while attempting a parkour escape, being launched across the street, and landing directly inside a viral pack. The city was built for humans. Demolishers were built to unmake that entirely. Every wall you trusted, every room you cleared, every choke point you controlled means nothing once one of these shows up. But at least a demolisher is something you can see coming. The next threat on this list looks completely human until the moment it doesn't. And by then, it's already too late. Screamers. Before you roll your eyes at this one, hear me out. Because screamers are not dangerous the way every other infected on this list is dangerous. They're dangerous in a way the game was specifically designed to make as psychologically brutal as possible. Screamers are infected children, found in Dying Light 1, stationary inside apartment buildings and houses they once lived in. You hear them before you see them, crying somewhere in a dark room. The kind of sound that makes every instinct you have tell you to help. When you get too close, when they register your presence, they scream. That scream does four things simultaneously. It disorients your vision completely. It renders you unable to attack or defend. It deals progressive damage for its full duration. And it infinitely spawns virals into the room until it stops. Every second the scream continues, more infected pour in. Every second you take more damage. And every second you can't fight back. There are exactly 4 ways to stop it. You can throw a Molotov. You can shoot from a distance, which makes noise and pulls more infected. You can charge in and hit first before it screams, which means getting close to an infected child in a dark room and attacking before confirming the threat. Or you can go silent, crouch, approach without making a sound, and kill it quietly. Here's what the quiet kill looks like. Kyle Crane reaches out and picks the child up. He holds them. The crying calms down, and then he breaks their neck. The game makes you hold the button. It doesn't cut away. That animation is one of the most deliberately disturbing moments in the entire franchise, and Techland put it there on purpose, because the game wants you to feel every option it gives you. A Molotov is clean and distant and lets you pretend it's just an obstacle. The quiet kill makes absolutely certain you understand what surviving in Harran actually costs. Screamers have approximately 20 hit points. They cannot move. They cannot attack directly. By every mechanical metric, they are one of the weakest infected in the game, and they are the only enemy type where every available method of dealing with them feels like losing. There is no good choice. There is only the choice that lets you keep moving. At least Screamers stay where they are. What comes next covers an entire territory, hunts at night, packs in coordinated groups, and runs faster than you, and there are millions of them. Volatiles. Every infected type covered so far has a counter, a weakness, a terrain advantage you can exploit, a behavioral pattern you can read, a resource you can use to tip the odds. Volatiles have exactly one weakness, and the entire world is designed to take it away from you every single night. Volatiles are what virals become when they avoid sunlight long enough for the infection to fully optimize their bodies. What comes out the other side is the virus's perfected killing machine. Taller than a human, more muscular, completely stripped of any remaining clothing or personal effects, with exposed bone, torn muscle, and a split mandible jaw that opens wider than a human mouth should. Near volatile nests, players have documented hearing them speak fragments. It burns. Mercy. Let me die. Just let me die. The hosts are still in there. The virus doesn't care. Their speed matches a sprinting player. Their parkour capability is full and unrestricted. Every wall, every rooftop, every gap you can clear, they can clear. Their pounce attack pins you to the ground for a near guaranteed kill at low levels. When they can see you but can't reach you, they spit a corrosive projectile. In Dying Light 2, that spit is accurate enough to shoot paragliders out of the air mid-flight. Standard volatiles carry approximately 2,000 horsepower. They don't hunt alone. They coordinate, flank, surround, and cut off escape routes as a pack. Techland confirmed in their own developer blog that volatiles were specifically redesigned to hunt players more effectively across all areas of the map, both alone and in coordinated groups. The chase system makes it worse. A single volatile spotting you triggers level 1. Each level escalates the number and aggression of infected responding. By level 4, on Nightmare difficulty in Dying Light 2, the game's own design philosophy describes the situation as functionally unsurvivable. After the 1.11 patch, volatiles were added to rooftop patrols, permanently eliminating the high ground escape that made early DL 2 nights manageable. The one terrain advantage players had, gone, in a single update. Their only weakness is UV light. UV flashlights stun and repel them. UV flares create temporary breathing room. Caught in direct sunlight, they combust. That's it. That's the entire counter to the fastest, strongest, most coordinated predator in the franchise. And the virus is already working on that weakness too, because standard volatiles are not even close to the worst version of themselves. But before we get there, the real question is, what happens when a volatile keeps its human mind? When it can think, when it can plan, when it can talk, because that version exists. And it's been running entire factions from the shadows. Sentient volatiles. A volatile that can't think is a predator. A volatile that can think is something the franchise has no name for, because nothing in the survival playbook accounts for it. Sentient volatiles are infected who retain full human intelligence through the transformation. During the day, they look and behave completely human. They hold conversations. They make decisions. They blend into survivor communities without detection. At night, they fight the volatile instincts clawing at them from inside, sometimes winning, sometimes not. The virus gave them everything a standard volatile has. The speed, the strength, the spit, the pounce, the physical superiority over every living human, and left the person behind the wheel. And here's where it gets genuinely terrifying. Sentient volatiles possess telepathic communication across vast distances. Enhanced ones can command biters, goons, demolishers, and other volatiles directly. Not attract them, not provoke them, command them. Every infected type covered on this list, every screaming viral, every unblockable demolisher, every coordinated volatile pack, is a potential asset under the control of a single sentient who decides, you need to die. The confirmed sentient volatiles in canon are not minor characters. The Mother, also known as Jasmine from the following DLC, led an entire cult in the countryside operating under her direction. Vincent Waltz maintained his human identity for decades through careful inhibitor abuse while running GRE operations from the inside. Aiden Caldwell from Dying Light 2 is sentient, the result of childhood GRE experiments that the organization ran specifically to engineer this outcome. And Kyle Crane, depending on the ending you choose in the following, becomes one, the protagonist of the first game, a sentient volatile. What makes this worse as a survival problem is the fertility detail. Sentient volatiles are confirmed capable of reproduction. They are not a mutation dead end. They are a new species, one that is stronger than you, smarter than you, can pass as you during daylight hours, and commands an army that none of your weapons, barricades, or safe zones were designed to stop. In Dying Light, the Beast, a community of sentient volatiles called the Exiles, survives through constant infusion of a mushroom-based compound that suppresses their instincts. Even they are on borrowed time. Even the most controlled, most organized, most self-aware version of this thing cannot permanently hold the virus back. It always wins, eventually. The virus engineered its perfect soldier and left enough humanity inside to make it strategic. That is not an accident. But a sentient volatile is still something you can theoretically reason with, run from, or negotiate around. What comes next has none of that complexity. It exists only to hunt you, and it is evolving past the one thing you had left to stop it. Alpha volatiles. Everything covered about standard volatiles, the speed, the parkour, the coordinated pack hunting, the corrosive spit, all of that still applies here. Alphas have all of it, but then the virus kept going. Alpha volatiles, officially designated blue volatiles by Techland in patch 1.1.2.2, first appear in the following DLC. The visual difference is immediate. Where a standard volatile is exposed muscle and bone, an alpha has grown a second skin. Dark blue chitinous armor plates cover the body, arachnoid in structure, hard enough that standard attacks that would stagger a normal volatile barely register. They carry approximately 4,000 horsepower, exactly double a standard volatile. Every stat across the board, aggression, speed, threat level, is maxed. They are not a stronger volatile. They are the volatile reclassified as something else entirely. But here's the thing that makes alphas categorically more dangerous than anything that came before them. Standard volatiles can be avoided with the right consumables. Camouflage potions make you invisible to infected. Cloak potions suppress your scent. Players have documented surviving entire nights in volatile-dense areas using these items as a last resort when every other option failed. Alpha volatiles are the only infected type in the entire franchise that can see through both. Camouflage doesn't work. Cloak doesn't work. Every tool the game gave you specifically for surviving volatile encounters stops functioning the moment an alpha is in the area. And in Dying Light, the Beast, the alpha volatile, was pushed even further. Techland described the new alpha variant as the most dangerous and intelligent non-sentient infected ever introduced in the Dying Light universe. It is immune to the UV flashlight, the one universal counter that worked on every volatile in every game across the entire franchise. When it detects you, it hunts through scent, sound, and flashlight glow simultaneously. When a chase ends and you manage to hide, it doesn't despawn. It waits. It patrols. It retains every point of damage you dealt it across the entire night. It only disappears when killed, and if it isn't killed, it returns the next night knowing your patterns. The UV flashlight was the foundational survival tool of the entire series. The design philosophy of both games was built around it. The volatile hierarchy exists because UV light represents a hard ceiling on how far the infection can evolve. An alpha immune to UV light is the virus communicating very clearly that it found the ceiling and went through it. 0 of your standard tools work. 0 of your escape routes are guaranteed. 0 of the rules that kept you alive across every previous section of this list still apply. And that is still not the worst version. Volatile tyrants. There is one rule that is held across every infected type in this entire video. One constant that survived every mutation, every escalation, every evolution the virus threw at the franchise. Sunlight kills them. Not anymore. Volatile tyrants were introduced in Dying Light 2, patch 2.4.0, and they represent the single most significant lore development in the franchise's history. Not because of their size, which is larger than a standard volatile, not because of their attack patterns, which include chain combinations, triple spit sequences, and enhanced speed that makes standard volatiles look slow. Not because of their glowing red bodies and sores that make them look like something the virus built specifically to be seen and feared. All of that is true, and all of that matters. But none of it is why volatile tyrants are the final entry on this list. Volatile tyrants can survive in direct sunlight. Let that sit for a second. The entire architecture of survival across both games, the safe zone UV lighting, the dawn sprints to safety, the flashlight as a weapon, the rooftops as refuge, every single system was built on one foundational assumption: the sun wins. Players die at night and live during the day. That is the core contract of the Dying Light franchise. Volatile tyrants void that contract completely. On Nightmare difficulty, engaging one is described by the game itself as suicidal. They resist UV light in ways that send them into zones that would repel any other volatile. And when the sun rises, they don't combust. They don't retreat. They stay exactly where they are. Here's the full picture of what that means. In Dying Light 2's timeline, the THV pandemic killed 98% of the human population in 2023. By the time of the game's present day, the infected have been mutating continuously for over a decade. Standard volatiles evolved from virals. Alpha volatiles evolved past UV counters. Volatile tyrants evolved past sunlight itself. The progression is not random. The virus is not getting lucky. It is systematically identifying every tool humanity has and removing it from the equation, one generation at a time. Every survivor in Villador structures their entire existence around a single 9-hour window of daylight. Food runs, resource gathering, fortification, all of it happens between sunrise and sunset because everyone knows what comes after dark. Volatile tyrants make that window meaningless. There is no safe time anymore. There is no safe place. There is no counter that works across the board. The virus started as a rabies variant in a Turkish city in 2014. It killed 98% of humanity within a decade. It built volatiles that hunt in packs. It built alphas that see through invisibility and shrug off UV light. And it built tyrants that walk in the sun. You cannot survive Dying Light zombies because the virus was never trying to kill you. It was trying to replace you. And it's winning. If you enjoyed this video and want to see why you won't survive a zombie apocalypse, click the video on the screen now.